was A.W. Tozer who said that we are called to an everlasting preoccupation with God. And certainly for any Christian, to think about God, to meditate on who God is, to learn to know God is one of the great privileges of the Christian life. And I just wanted to highlight for you some of the best books on God that I've read in my Christian life that I think will be helpful for you. And the first one is by A.W. Tozer. This is The Knowledge of the Holy. This is a beautiful book that looks at the various attributes, the characteristics of God. And A.W. Tozer was something of a poet. He was steeped in the writings of both the Puritans and some of the old mystical type authors. And you really get a sense of the transcendence and the beauty of God in reading this book. It's one of the great classics of devotional literature from the 20th century. A second book is George Swinnock's The Blessed and Boundless God. This is a book by an old Puritan in a wonderful little series, Puritan Treasures for Today. And this book also looks at God's being and His works and attributes. It's a very, very helpful book. This is a modernization of George Swinnock, and I found it really helpful. I just read this for the first time maybe a year or so ago, and I thought it was very simple and yet really profound in how it speaks of God. One of the great classics of the last 30 years or so is R.C. Sproul's book, The Holiness of God. I don't know of anyone in modern times who has plumbed more deeply into this particular attribute of God, the holiness of God. And Sproul points out that it's only of this attribute, the holiness of God, that we read in Scripture that God is holy, holy, holy. So you have this attribute, this description of God in the superlative degree, the thrice holy God. This is a wonderful book, I think a real game changer in Reformed theology, at least in the our contemporary time. And by the way, you can get the lectures that this book was based on. You can get those lectures for free on Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, just look up The Holiness of God by R.C. Sproul and you can find those videos. They're very, very helpful. Another book that I've just reread for the third time is Delighting in the Trinity by Michael Reeves. This may be the best short book on the doctrine of the Trinity that I've read. Michael Reeves shows that the Trinity is right at the heart of the gospel, it's right at the heart of the Christian faith, and that it's only as we understand God as triune, Father, Son, and Spirit, three persons in one being. It's only as we understand that we really understand the heartbeat of God and understand the gospel itself. This is a really great book. It's witty, it's actually funny. There are times you'll laugh out loud reading Michael Reeves, and it's a short book, 5 chapters with an introduction and conclusion. You can read it in just a few days. And then finally, another classic from the 20th century is J.I. Packer's wonderful book, Knowing God. J.I. Packer also looks at many of the characteristics of God, the attributes of God, but he looks at other things as well. One of my favorite things in this book is a chapter on the doctrine of adoption. What does it mean to be a child of God? Nobody talks about that more eloquently or more powerfully than J.I. Packer. This is a wonderful book and certainly worth your time. I hope that you'll take some time this year to get to know God more deeply and that one of these books will be helpful for you in that journey.